If you like to experience the feeling of adventure from above, you can try going to Mount Hua Shan. There is a road called Mount Hua Shan Wooden Plank Road. It is a dangerous and famous trail located on Mount Hua Shan, China, made of wooden planks nailed to the vertical cliff. The suspension bridges without railings across the mountains in China are among the most dangerous bridges in the world. They are built along vertical cliffs without railings. And to cross these suspension bridges, you need to wear a helmet to avoid falling rocks, and a safety harness, which is hooked to the cables along the bridge. If you are afraid of heights and have a weak heart, I advise you to think carefully and be very careful when crossing it. Chinese workers built the Law Wang Cliffside suspension bridge at 2,126 meters, using only wooden scaffolding clinging to the mountainside. The planks were loosely spaced, with no railings on one side. Wearing only hard hats and rope tied around their waists, they carried construction materials daily across a 3.2-kilometer stretch, repeating the journey 5 to 6 times. Despite minimal safety gear, the mostly middle-aged workers continued building the 6,800 meters bridge, including a 180 meters glass section, while navigating terrifying heights and unstable footing. In the cliffside village of Liangshan, Sichuan, a 2,556-step steel staircase now connects villagers to the outside world. Perched at 1,400 meters above sea level, residents once had to climb 17 nearly vertical rattan ladders, and steep cliff faces an 800-meter drop below with nothing but their bare hands. Children spent hours daily scaling these paths just to reach school. Each journey filled families with anxiety. In 2017, the steel ladder was built, drastically improving travel safety and making life easier. This Sky Road has become a lifeline, ending the villagers' dangerous climbs and opening a new chapter of connection and hope. The climb up Mount Hua begins at the entrance near the West Gate, where climbers traverse scenic trails before reaching the West Cable Car Station. Once on the cable car, they are taken high up on the steep granite rocks, offering a dramatic overview of the challenges ahead. Once at the upper station, the path becomes narrow and rugged, winding along the rocky ridges towards the Skyplank peak. Climbers make their way to the Yang Lord Tower before reaching the South Peak, the highest point at 2,154.9 meters. The trail to the summit consists of narrow stone steps carved into the mountain face, with chains fastened to the rock for safety. Each step requires balance and courage as the path clings to the vertical rocks. One of the most terrifying stretches is the infamous plank walk. This wooden path, consisting of only a few wide planks, is bolted directly to the cliff face over a deep gorge. Climbers strap on safety ropes and hold onto chains as they make their way step by step along the wall, with no railings and only sheer cliffs below. After surviving the plank walk, hikers continue along the ridges, offering sweeping views of the granite peaks and surrounding valleys. The path then leads to the north summit, which includes numerous stone staircases and narrow cliffside routes. Finally, the descent is made via the North Cable Car. capping off a challenging and breathtaking journey through one of China's most dangerous and exciting mountain trails. Want to try hiking on Mount Hua Shan Cliff? Mount Hua Shan Cliff Plank Road, or Mount Hua Shan Cliff Trail, is one of the most dangerous sites on Mount Hua Shan. The path is built by inlaying wooden bars and iron chains on the vertical cliff, and the bottomless abyss lies right below the visitor's feet when there are no railings. The Mount Hua Shan Cliff Plank Road starts from the South Gate of Heaven, where hikers prepare for the journey ahead by tightening their safety ropes and gloves. Participants must clip the safety ropes to the iron safety cables fixed along the cliff and make sure they are securely fastened before stepping onto the path. The first section is a narrow trail carved into the granite, surrounded by low fences for protection. Visitors move carefully along this relatively safe section, keeping their balance while holding on to the iron chains for balance. Soon, they reach the second section. This section requires descending a near-vertical cliff using a narrow wooden ladder built into the rock. Step by step, hikers carefully lower themselves down, facing the cliff and the sky, their bodies pressed against the rock for balance. The descent requires intense concentration, as each movement must be precise to maintain balance while holding on to a safety rope.
Sorry.
At the bottom of the ladder, the third and most dangerous section of the plank trail begins. Here, the path is no more than 0.3 meters wide, just enough for a foot to rest on old wooden planks bolted to the cliff. The abyss below stretches hundreds of meters down, with no protection except a chain attached to the rock at chest level. Hikers turn sideways to advance along the planks, pressing their chests and shoulders against the cliff while holding on to the chain with both hands. One by one, the hikers move forward along the cliff, constantly adjusting their safety ropes as they pass anchor points along the chain. The movements are slow and calculated. The fear of slipping is ever present, so every step must be taken with extreme caution. The steep drop below makes hikers dizzy, but the hikers stay focused, encouraged by those in front and behind. Occasionally, the planks change direction or become narrower. In some sections, hikers step straight onto ledges where the planks have worn away or never existed. Careful footing is essential. The entire body is held tightly to the cliff at all times to reduce exposure to the open air.
Sorry. Da geht's runter.
Halfway up the plank, the view opens up to reveal a breathtaking view of Mount Hua's sharp granite peaks, deep valleys, and drifting clouds below. Some hikers pause for a moment, holding the chain with one hand while taking photos or taking deep breaths to steady their nerves. Despite the risks, the beauty and thrill keep them moving forward. As the trail continues, hikers must unbuckle and rebuckle their safety ropes several times to pass through safety points, always ensuring safety. The route requires not only courage, but also patience and coordination. Every action, whether sliding along the chain, adjusting their footing, or communicating with others, requires complete alertness.
我这里呀，跟我照啊。
你来一张哈，然后前来这边。
等一下啊。
Eventually, hikers reach the end of the plank trail. There is no alternative. They must turn back. Back on the narrow platform, they begin the return journey facing narrow planks and steep cliffs. The return journey is no less terrifying. Some of the climb up seems more dangerous than the descent. However, with careful attention to every movement and encouragement from other hikers, the hikers complete the experience. After safely returning to the starting point, climbers unroped and stepped back onto the sturdy platform. The sense of accomplishment was immense. After completing one of the world's most dangerous cliffside routes, each participant walked away with a deeper sense of courage, balance, and respect for the raw and challenging natural beauty of Mount Hua. The journey along the Skyplank Road begins at a rugged landing area carved into the cliffs below Mount Hua Shan's south peak. This narrow trail, one of the most dangerous in the world, clings to a sheer cliff face, thousands of feet above a gaping abyss. The process begins with meticulous preparation. Hikers gather at a small platform where safety equipment is distributed. Each hiker is given a red harness which they carefully thread over their shoulders and around their torsos. They tighten the harness, ensuring a snug fit that doesn't shift during the journey. A sturdy rope, attached to the harness, is clipped to a steel cable anchored along the cliff by a carabiner. Hikers test the carabiner, sliding it along a short section of cable to confirm it moves smoothly while remaining securely fastened. They pull the rope, verifying its connection to the lifeline, realizing that this lifeline is their only protection against the dizzying fall below. With the lifeline secured and checked, the hikers adjust their clothing to tuck the loose ends of the rope to avoid entanglement and take a moment to steady their nerves, their eyes on the narrow path ahead. The trail begins with a terrifying descent down a series of uneven stone steps carved directly into the sheer cliff face. Hikers grip a thick iron chain bolted to the rock, their fingers wrapping tightly around the cold metal as they lower themselves onto the first step. The steps are small, barely wide enough for a full foot, and have been used smoothly by millions of hikers over the years. Hikers place each foot carefully, feeling for secure footing before shifting their weight. Their left shoulder touched the rugged cliff, a reassuring presence, while to their right the cliff dropped into an impenetrable void, where the ground below was a distant blur. The chain provided vital stability, and the hikers alternated hands, holding on tight as they descended step by step. The carabiner pulled along the steel cable, which ran parallel to the steps at waist height, and the hikers glanced at it occasionally to make sure it was still securely clamped. The descent was slow, each movement calculated to avoid a misstep that would send them staggering toward the edge.
The worst part is very cold.
After traversing the first set of stone steps, hikers reach the beginning of the infamous plank section, the heart of the Skyplank Trail. The path transitions from stone to a series of narrow wooden planks, each no wider than 12 inches, nailed directly into the cliff face. The planks, weathered and slightly uneven, form a precarious walkway suspended over the abyss. Hikers pause, adjust their grip on the safety cables, and continue along the planks. They step foot first onto the planks, feeling the delicate flexing of the wood under their weight. The planks are spaced closely together, but the small gaps between them offer a glimpse of the dizzying drop below, where the rocky valley floor disappears into the mist. Hikers keep their bodies pressed against the cliff face, their left hands gripping the cables while their right searches for shallow handholds carved into the rock. The cliff face is rough, with occasional overhangs, but the cable remains their main anchor. Warding requires constant concentration. Hikers move 1 foot at a time, sliding their boots forward to test the board before putting their weight on it. Knees are slightly bent, keeping their center of gravity low. The carabiner slides along the cable with a soft metallic squeak, and the hiker ensures it moves freely with each step, maintaining a constant attachment. The wind, blowing in gusts on the exposed path, tugs at their clothing and challenges their balance, forcing them to pause occasionally to regain their balance. The boards creak softly underfoot, and the hiker scans each board for signs of splinters, cracks, or loose nails before continuing. Their breathing is audible, a steady rhythm punctuated by the occasional sharp intake of breath as they move through particularly narrow or uneven sections. The cliff to their left was uncomfortable, its sheer face pressing into their shoulders, while the void to their right was a constant, unspoken threat. As the hiker progresses, the plank path curves gently, following the natural contour of the cliff. At certain points, the planks give way to brief sections of bare rock, where the trail narrows to a mere ledge, barely wide enough for the toes of their shoes. These transitions are harrowing. The hiker pauses, assessing the foothold before stepping onto the rock. They press their body tightly against the cliff, their fingers digging into shallow grooves or gripping small protrusions. The safety cable continues, and the hiker slides the carabiner to the next section, ensuring it remains secure. The rock is smoother than the planks, offering less traction, and the hiker moves with exaggerated caution, their heart pounding as they inch along. Returning to the planks after these rocky stretches feels like a small victory, though the narrow boards offer little reprieve from the trail's intensity. Occasionally, the hiker reaches a slightly wider section of the trail, a small ledge or platform carved into the cliff. These areas, though still perilously exposed, provide a brief moment to pause. The hiker adjusts their harness, checking the straps and carabiner for any signs of strain. They shift their weight, easing the tension in their legs, and take a moment to glance at the surrounding landscape. The rolling peaks of Mount Hua Shan stretch into the distance, their rugged outlines softened by mist, while far below, the faint glint of a river winds through the valley. The view is breathtaking, but the hiker cannot linger. The narrow path ahead demands their attention. They resume their trek, stepping back onto the planks with renewed focus, their hands returning to the cable. At one point, the trail descends again, this time down a steeper set of stone steps. These steps are more worn than the initial descent, their edges rounded and slick. The hiker grips the iron chain tightly, their knuckles whitening as they lower themselves. The safety cable follows the descent, and the hiker slides the carabiner along, ensuring it remains taut. The physical strain is evident, with their arms and legs working in unison to control their descent. The sound of their shoes scraping against the rock is faint, overshadowed by the whistle of the wind, which grows stronger in this exposed section. The hiker's movements are precise, each step a small triumph over the trail's unforgiving terrain.
Let's go.
Reaching the next stretch of planks, the hiker continues along the cliff, now facing a particularly sheer section of the mountain. The planks here appear older, their surfaces rough and splintered in places. The hiker tests each board carefully, applying partial weight before stepping fully. The safety cable remains their lifeline, and they frequently check the carabiner's connection, ensuring it slides smoothly. The cliff face offers few handholds, forcing the hiker to rely heavily on the cable and their balance. The drop to their right is stark, the valley below a distant patchwork of rock and shadow. The hiker keeps their eyes fixed on the path, resisting the urge to look down, their focus narrowing to the next step, the next board, the next grip. The trail soon reaches its narrowest point, where the planks are barely wide enough for a single foot. This section feels like walking a tightrope, and the hiker moves with extreme caution, sliding their feet along the wood rather than lifting them. Their left hand maintains a death grip on the cable, while their right hand presses flat against the cliff, searching for any texture to steady themselves. The wind picks up, stronger now, and the hiker pauses, pressing their body closer to the rock to minimize its impact. Their breathing is rapid, their chest rising and falling as they navigate this perilous stretch. The carabiner's metallic scrape is a constant reassurance, and the hiker glances at it occasionally, confirming its secure attachment. Passing this section feels like a monumental achievement, though the trail ahead offers no immediate relief.
No, give me space. Okay. Okay. You're done. See you. Enjoy. Oh. You done? Yes. Wait.
After the narrowest stretch, the path widens slightly, allowing the hiker to move with marginally more confidence. However, the trail soon curves around a protruding section of the cliff, requiring them to lean outward slightly to maintain their footing. This moment is particularly terrifying, as the hiker's body briefly extends over the abyss, their weight supported only by the narrow planks and the safety cable. They move quickly but carefully, Eager to reach the next stable section, the carabiner slides smoothly, and the hiker keeps their eyes fixed on the path, their hands gripping the cable tightly. The cliff face recedes slightly, leaving them feeling more exposed, but they press forward, driven by the need to complete the trail.
Hello.
The trail eventually leads to a small ledge, where the hiker pauses to catch their breath. This ledge, though still perched precariously on the cliff, offers a momentary respite. The hiker adjusts their harness, rechecking the straps and carabiner. They wipe sweat from their brow, their hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline coursing through them. The path ahead continues along another series of planks, and the hiker mentally prepares for the next challenge, their resolve hardened by the distance already covered. They step back onto the planks, their movement steady, despite the fatigue beginning to set in.
Hua Shan.
The next section involves a descent down a series of iron rungs embedded in the cliff. The hiker grips the rungs tightly, lowering themselves with care. The rungs are cold and slightly slippery, and the hiker tests each one before committing their weight. The safety cable follows the descent, and the hiker slides the carabiner along, maintaining constant contact. The physical effort is intense, with their arms bearing much of their weight as they descend. The transition from planks to rungs is demanding, requiring strength and coordination. The hiker's shoes scrape against the cliff, searching for additional support, while the wind continues to buffet them, adding to the challenge.
Hello. Almost done.
After reaching the base of the rungs, the hiker returns to another stretch of planks. This section is slightly more stable, with newer, more evenly spaced boards. However, the exposure remains extreme, and the hiker moves cautiously, keeping their body close to the cliff and their hands on the cable. The trail curves gently, and the hiker adjusts their pace, their steps rhythmic but deliberate. The sound of the carabiner scraping along the cable mingles with the faint rustle of the wind, creating a stark, almost meditative soundtrack to their journey. As the hiker nears the end of the plank walk, the trail ascends slightly, leading to a final set of stone steps. These steps are wider than the earlier ones, but still require careful navigation. The hiker grips the iron chain, using it to pull themselves upward while keeping the carabiner clipped to the cable. The ascent is grueling, their legs burning from the effort of climbing while maintaining balance. The cliff face remains close, offering a sense of security despite the drop to their side. The hikers' breathing is labored, their focus unwavering as they climb the final steps.
How are you for? Are you okay? Okay, good.
Finally, the hikers reach the next point of the Skyplank, taking the final steps of the path to the finish line. The trail behind them stretched along the cliff, a testament to the arduous journey they had taken. The process was marked by careful steps, relentless concentration, and unwavering trust in the safety cables that had carried them safely through one of the most dangerous hikes in the world. The walk on the Chiang Kong Cliff Road begins at the South Heavenly Gate on Mount Hua, one of China's most sacred and perilous mountains. To reach this location, visitors first climb a series of extremely steep stone stairs carved into the mountain face. These stairs alone are a test of courage and physical endurance, and they set the tone for the dramatic path that follows. With the harness secured, visitors step cautiously onto the first section of the walk, which spans approximately 20 meters in length and 70 centimeters in width. This upper section, leading from the South Heavenly Gate to Chaoyuan Cave, is relatively safe compared to what lies ahead. The wooden planks are supported by strong metal beams bolted directly into the rock face, and there are iron guardrails lining the cliff edge, providing a minimal yet reassuring form of protection. This part of the route allows walkers to adjust gradually to the sensation of standing on a narrow ledge thousands of meters above the ground. As the walk continues, the path reaches the middle section, which is considered the most psychologically challenging. Here, the wooden plank ends, and the route transitions into a nearly vertical descent. Walkers must climb down carefully using iron chains affixed to the cliff, while placing their feet on metal bars carved into the rock. These bars are referred to as stairs, though they resemble more of a foothold system embedded in a narrow crevice. The body is positioned nearly perpendicular to the rock face, and at this stage, heart rates begin to rise as the sheer exposure and steepness become truly apparent. Once this middle section is descended, participants arrive at the most dangerous and famous part of the walk, the lower section. This stretch is the longest and most nerve-wracking portion, extending across uneven planks and segments where no planks exist at all. In areas without planks, climbers must use shallow stone holes chiseled directly into the cliff to place their feet. These holes are spaced just enough to move forward step by step, requiring climbers to lean tightly against the rock to maintain balance.
And here we go back again.
The entire lower section must be traversed while facing the cliff, gripping the chains with both hands and sliding sideways inch by inch. There is no room for passing. The walkway is so narrow in places as little as 30 centimeters wide that when someone approaches from the opposite direction, one must cling to the wall to let them by, often flattening their body against the cliff to avoid collision. In many places, the wooden planks appear aged, supported only by rust-colored iron pegs driven directly into the cliff face. These pegs are remnants of the original structure, which dates back over 700 years to the Yuan dynasty when Taoist monks first created the walkway. Initially used in spiritual quests to seek immortals hidden in the mountains, this treacherous road is now a modern-day thrill walk visited by thousands of daring hikers each year.
Oh, like this.
The view below during the walk is a vertical drop into misty depths, with only the safety harness preventing a fall. The planks creak underfoot, and the wind sometimes howls across the narrow ledges, amplifying the sensation of vulnerability. Despite the peril, the path is both awe-inspiring and peaceful, offering a rare feeling of isolation in the high mountains.
I don't have to rush because, there's no traffic jam.
Reaching the end of the walkway brings a brief moment of triumph and relief. But the journey isn't over. Since the plank walk does not connect to other parts of Mount Hua's trail network, every hiker must turn around and retrace their steps along the exact same path. This return trip means descending again into the lower section, navigating back across the bare stone footholds and narrow planks, climbing up the vertical iron bar section, and walking once more along the upper portion toward the South Heavenly Gate.
Okay. Push this one.
This return adds an additional layer of challenge, particularly when meeting hikers who are just beginning their descent. The tight space requires strategic coordination, mutual trust, and a steady grip. Many hikers report that returning feels even more intense as the fatigue begins to set in, and the surreal danger of the walk becomes more tangible the second time. This remarkable journey, carved into the face of Mount Hua, is a testament to both ancient craftsmanship and the courage of modern adventurers.